game. I went and did the research. GMO is reducing our fertility. GMO is doing it in all the other animals they tested on. They won't let human tests go on because they want to cover this up. All the big eugenicists that call for population reduction are the ones funding it, like Bill Gates buying into Monsanto. I mean, look, we're going to go back to Jeffery Smith, journalist, filmmaker, author, and have him for the rest of the hour. And at the bottom of the hour, we're going to open the phones up if you want to talk to him and have your questions. But everything he's saying is so documented. I want him to recap what he was getting to at the end of the last segment. But, again, the biggest threat, I'm not against nuclear power, but 9 out of 10, the Associated Press say, are leaking of 400 and something. And they're supposed to shut them down for 20 years. Some are going for 40 years. They're crazy people. Fukushima blew up and is still melting down. The EPA just raises radiation level. That's a real environmental crisis. And I have doctors, physicists, chemical physicists on. They say cancer rates will go up. You know, Chernobyl's killed 1 million people conservatively since 1986. This is the real threats we face. And you're not hearing this from the big environmental groups, because Monsanto and others are in there lobbying and controlling. Instead, it's how I need to pay the government more money, or have them ban my light bulbs, or don't take a hot shower. This is what they actually teach. I mean, maybe I'd listen to them about not taking a hot shower. I'm being sarcastic. Okay, let's stop right there. You're splicing the entire biosphere. Grasses, trees they're coming out with, everything. And all the allergies exploding, and cancer up over 2,000%, and fertility plunging, and all of this. It is a nightmare situation. We cover it in my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Okay, Jeff, you got the floor. This is a longer segment than the next, and we're going to go to calls. But continue with some of the studies, some of the facts, the suicides, what this has done to agriculture, the results it's caused. And then I want you to talk about the population reduction angle, because I remember talking to you 10 years ago, and you're like, well, Mr. Jones, there is, you know, there is some evidence that's linked to infertility, but you know, I'm not going to go there. But now it's becoming so widespread, even in the mainline literature. People are saying, why does it always have traits that reduce fertility? You know, this can't just be an accident every time. Or maybe if these are live pesticides, that's what it is. But even products that aren't pesticide-based are having it. Please continue.
Okay, we'll get to the reproductive thing. Where I want to go is bring completely new stuff that we're preparing for a new film, which, by the way, our mutual friend Mike Adams is doing a matching grant so that our institute can finish their production and promote. That's at responsibletechnology.org. What I want to focus in on is digestive issues, and then we're going to link it to autism. As you know, with autism, most of the kids have some form of digestive ailment, and they also have behavioral disorders. We've already talked about in the previous segment many animals having behavioral disorders when being fed GMOs. Let's look at their digestive tracts and see if it resembles at all the kind of gnarly and messed up digestion that we're seeing in autistic kids. I talked to butchers and farmers that butcher their own animals, and whenever they've compared GM fed to non-GM fed, they say it's night and day. They say, for example, the intestines of the GM fed animals are so disrupted, they're like paper thin and they can tear apart. So we no longer, as a country, use our own animals' intestines for sausage casings. We import them from New Zealand, where they don't feed GMOs. I've also heard that the organs are discolored among the GM-fed animals and have a foul stench. Now, the stench is probably linked to the change in the gut flora. There's a complete change, according to many veterinarians, as well as doctors, in the gut flora, both of animals fed GMOs and in
okay, I'm going to stop you again. I'm going to stop you again. We've done deep research that no one is covering that I've seen. I'm going to bring this up. I know you've probably seen it. But Aaron Dykes is exposed that Bill Gates, who's the big eugenicist for population reduction, he's bought into Monsanto. His other big funding is studying and trying to buy up control of gut disorder investigations, because it's a big new market because everybody's getting it. And then all the studies are showing it's attacking the organs. This is confirmed. But here he is trying to take control of it so that no company's out there to expose what's going on. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware that he was investing in that. I do know he's a major investor in Monsanto, that the person in charge of his agricultural section of his foundation is a former Monsanto guy. I heard him speak at the World Food Prize a couple of years ago when he said he was converted by a visit from the Rockefeller Foundation to become a GMO advocate. So, yeah, I'm aware of Gates' position on GMOs. I was not aware about the gastrointestinal investigations. But I want to talk
his
about...
dad, it turns out, worked for the Rockefeller Foundation. Yeah, it's all a big... Yeah, please continue. So you're making a film with all the devastating evidence that of what this weapon system's doing.
You know, we've talked in the past in previous films and books about the laboratory studies. For example, the animals that are fed GM soy have changed uteruses and ovaries, damage to the young sperm cells, higher infant mortality, sterility by the third generation, hair growing in their mouths, fewer babies, smaller babies. We see the work done in laboratories. But what we're doing with this new film is correlating it with interviews with veterinarians and farmers, pet owners and pet veterinarians, and doctors and parents. Because what we're seeing is a correlation between the type of problems identified in the laboratory with the type of problems that are exploding in the doctor's offices in the United States. Now, autism, I'm just focusing on autism right now because it's an interesting link, and I happen to be writing a very extensive paper on it this week, so it's fresh in my mind, but it's all new information. Now, you mentioned earlier, Alex, about the insecticidal corn and cotton. That's Bt toxin produced in every cell of corn and cotton. They take a gene from soil bacteria, insert it into the DNA of the plant, so every little cell has a little spray bottle. Now, the excuse that the Environmental Protection Agency says is why they can put a pesticide that breaks open the stomach of insects and kills them, why they can put that in food, is that they say it has no impact on human cells or mammal cells. Well, a study came out this past week from the Journal of Applied Toxicology, where for the first time they took Bt toxin derived from genetically modified plants and exposed it to human cells. And lo and behold, what we all knew, but the EPA denied, is that it caused the process of starting to kill the cells, and it caused a break open of the membranes so that fluid leaked out and was detected in higher numbers. Now, this is exactly what we think happens with insects and why this Bt toxin kills insects. It destroys the integrity of their digestive tract. What I hear from...
Yeah, that was a German study 6-7 years ago, yeah, that it's destroying their intestines, including the bees. So they're just... This is an Armageddon. Please continue. But I want to ask you from your research, why do you think they're doing it? How do they think they'll get away with this? Go ahead.
Let's come back to that question, because that's a lot of opinions and a lot of ideas. But let's talk about the facts for just a moment. I'll get to that.